Hey, what's going on, Los Angeles? Welcome into the Rams Skinny here on the LA Football Network. Hosting the show, my man Ryan Anderson, or Skinny T, as we like to call him here on the Rams Skinny, and giving the alley-oops is me, Ryan Dyrud, joining you. Excited to be talking all things Rams football here. If you're listening on radio on the Mightier 1090 ESPN Radio, thank you always for making us a part of your drive home. And obviously, if you're on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, or LAFBnetwork.com, we appreciate you, Ramley, and we cannot wait. It's finally here. The season is upon us. Tonight, Thursday, the NFL kicks off, Chiefs and Lions, and then we get to watch our Rams take on division foe Seattle Seahawks on Sunday. So excited to preview the game, get into some key storylines, some key matchups we're looking forward to. So, but Skinny T, what's up, my brother? How we doing on this fine day?
Doing fantastic. Football season is upon us. It feels so good. You know, we've got 4 LA matchups coming up. What a weekend for sports to be back. It's fantastic, isn't it?
Yeah, I know. All 4 of our LA football teams are back. We had USC kicked off 2 weeks ago by themselves, and we had SC and UCLA last week. Well, this weekend we get all 4, and that just means for you and me a lot of football on Saturdays and Sundays now, which is great.
Absolutely. Yeah, can't complain.
Yeah, and hopefully that just means we get to hang out more, so even better. But yeah, so before we get into it, show is always brought to you by our friends at BetOnline. Head to betonline.ag today. Use our promo code BELIEVE. That's BLEAV. It's going to give you a 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. This game specifically, Rams Seahawks, the line started at, what did I say, Skinny T? Started at negative
4, I think.
4, -4 in favor of the Seahawks. Yeah. It has now jumped to -5.5 in favor of the Seahawks. So, if you think the Rams are going to, only lose by 3, that's a great bet. If you think the Rams are going to win, take the money line, but you can do it all at betonline.ag. Use that promo code BELIEVE. Gets you free money to play with on your first deposit. All right, Skinny. So let's toss it over to you. Give me some, and you don't have to list them all out first, but let's just talk some key storylines heading into this game. A lot of conversation, obviously, all off season long about this Rams team and, the lack thereof of addition, but a lot of subtraction from the last year's regime and previous team. And so we've got new coaches in the building, a lot of new players, a lot of youth. And obviously the big name will not be there on Sunday, which is Cooper Kupp. So just give me, to start off the bat, biggest storyline you want to get into.
It's got to be Cooper Kupp missing this game. I was heading into the season feeling pretty good about the receiving core. And then without him there at the top, I started to look down the list and go, where's this offense? Where's this offense going to generate yards and points with him gone? He's dealing with a hamstring issue. Coach McVay has kind of speculated, kind of let some information slip about possible nerve damage. He's heading to Minnesota to get it looked at by specialists. Athletes across the country at all different sports have hamstring issues, and they're out for a week, out for 2 weeks, come back. It's a normal soft tissue issue for athletes in all sports, but for whatever reason, this is lingering for beyond a month now.
Yeah,
so I think that's got to be the top storyline, and he's been Matthew Stafford's go-to target in the 2 years that he's played with him. He's targeted him at over 30% in both 2021 or 2021 and 2022. So
2001 would have been a long time ago. Greatest show on turf. He was on the greatest show on turf.
Yeah, exactly.
No, go ahead.
Oh yeah, I was just gonna throw it back to you and get your thoughts on where this leaves the Rams and what this means for this game.
Yeah, I mean, it's a huge story because, I felt all offseason, we've said it many times, so I don't want to beat a dead horse, but I thought this Rams team could at least be competitive this year. Definitely not a true contender, but, in that, 6 to 8 to maybe 9 kind of win regime, but they had to have their core 3 healthy all year long in order to do that, being Stafford, Donald, and Cooper Kupp. And so heading into week 1, you're already missing one of your 3 pillars. And, like you said, and like we kind of thought in training camp, if it was a kind of lingering hamstring where it's like, okay, it's just this week and then he'll be back. But the unknown of, is it nerve damage? Is he going to miss extended period of time? And it's, I don't want to say frustrating, but it's a little unnerving, for a lack of better word, no pun intended, that they haven't put him on IR yet. meaning he would miss the first 4 weeks, but it would allow a roster spot for them to pull someone up. Because as of right now, they have 5 receivers going into week 1. They haven't done it yet. And if the news continues to worsen, then they're going to have to do it eventually, but they're just wasting time on, having other talent potentially. So it gives me a little bit of encouragement that maybe, it's not as bad as, the outside thinks just because of all the unknown. Maybe they do know, like, this is just a lingering thing. It's going to be fine. But if it is a nerve thing, and we saw Stafford have that kind of the nerve contusion, the neck contusion last year, that then he was done for the year because of that. That puts this team in a really tough spot. And I think you were going to ask me this, but I'll toss it back to you. Like, who steps up? And let's just talk this week against Seattle. You've got some big corners out there, and, it's not the Legion of Boom anymore, obviously, but still a formidable defense in the secondary. And so no Cooper Kupp, obviously Van and Tutu are kind of your starting, but who really steps up that can be the Stafford connection in your opinion?
So I think the obvious guy to look at is Van Jefferson. He's put together some great seasons, but we've never seen him with Stafford really step into that number one role, even for necessarily an entire game where he just starts peppering Van Jefferson and hitting him consistently. Another name I'm looking at is Demarcus Robinson.
Yeah,
he's a journeyman. He's been around. But I think what it's going to have to be is that Stafford is using everybody, that he starts hitting everybody, spreading those targets around, diversifying this offense, making defenses guess at where he's going to go. So that involves Tutu Atwell, maybe in short yardage situations. We've seen him take the top off of offenses. Can he kind of catch some stuff over the middle of the field? And then I think Ben Skowronek is going to be a huge part of this, just because he is so versatile. Where does he fit in? Going back just to talk about Kupp just a little bit more, all of his injuries, his ACL and then the hamstring surgery, all took place on the same leg. That he's having this hamstring issue. As we know, the body is interconnected. So that's just an interesting thing. I kind of wanted to point out all that right hand side, I think, if I'm getting that correct. Anyway. So what are your thoughts on the receiving core?
Yeah, we'll have to, if this injury lingers, we'll have to get my buddy Dr. Nima Moran on. He's done stuff with SC, with the Lakers, with the Dodgers, and maybe he can give us some insight into what nerve damage at a hamstring looks like. But yeah, when you look at this receiving core, I agree with you. I've been all about Demarcus Robinson all offseason. I just thought that was a great acquisition. Just gives you some veteran when they have so much youth all across the roster, including the receiving core. Outside of Cooper Kupp, it's a pretty young group, but Demarcus Robinson does give you about 7 years of experience. So this is a situation where, he's not going to be a wide receiver 1 at the end of the day, but hey, he's had seasons of 500 plus yards receiving and can certainly be a voice and a leaning, a linchpin, if you will, for Stafford in this week 1 of saying like, hey, I've been in these moments before. Give me the rock. Skowronek obviously played in the Super Bowl. He's been in big moments. Tutu Atwell's been around this team for multiple years now. So, they have some guys to do it. And Demarcus Robinson, to me, is the guy that's going to I think Van will play great too, but I think Demarcus Robinson is your guy that's going to step up that maybe is not as known among the fan base. The other one I'll add, Skinny, is I think Tyler Higbee. Every quarterback, they always say every quarterback's best friend is a running game and a tight end that gets you out of bad situations. And we've seen it across the league now where I wouldn't say there's a bevy of great tight ends, but the really good ones, those offenses are all pretty elite. When you look at the Travis Kelce, when you look at George Kittle, when you look at Mark Andrews in Baltimore, when you look at even Dallas Goedert, or Goddard, excuse me. And is it Goedert or Goddard? I always go French.
I've always heard Goddard.
Goddard. Well, I'll go Goedert for the French people out there, but Dallas Goedert up in Philly. So if Tyler Higbee can play at the level I think we all know he's capable of, we've seen those flashes of those 3 touchdown games, like ironically against Philadelphia a year or two ago. And if he can get back to that level and just be that safety blanket for Matthew Stafford and take the pressure off the receiving core with its kind of youth and inexperience, because he's one of the longest tenured Rams. And so if he can step up and really kind of become the Travis Kelce of the offense, if you will, I'm not saying he's going to be as good or can be as good even, but if he can at least be that much of a focal point in the offense, it's going to take a lot of pressure off the receiving core. So I guess to answer your question, Demarcus Robinson, I'm looking forward to seeing, and I think Higbee has a big game this week 1.
Yeah, I think you're right about Higbee. They just need him to run those 6-yard routes, pick up the first down. I mean, his big issue
Just move
last
the chains,
season,
baby. Just move the chains.
that's what we need. Just keep the offense on the field. Um, his big issue last year was drops. He didn't haul the catch in when he needed to in those key positions. So yet another question mark for the Rams. But let's just hope he turns it around for this year. But I think I think one of the keys to this game is going to be the other side of the offense is the running game.
Yeah.
We haven't seen what the Rams are going to do fully yet. He brings McVay brings in LaFleur to kind of revamp that, bring a little bit of that San Francisco running style into this. We haven't seen what it's going to be fully yet, but we do know that Seattle has some backs. We were big fans of Zach Charbonnet coming out of UCLA. I kind of see him as the 1-2 punch kind of guy, and then you got the haymaker coming in with Kenneth Walker. So I think whichever team is able to establish the run, as they say, is going to be the team that comes away with the win.
Yeah, I mean, that's going to be a huge, huge thing. And when you look at this, Rams team, you're going to have 2 featured backs that didn't play a snap in preseason, in Cam Akers and Kyren Williams. And I know that's been the Rams and McVay's thing, but there's going to be probably some rust there in the beginning, and you still have an offensive line unit that isn't fully cohesive yet. So there's going to be some growing pains in this game, and it's really going to be on Stafford to right the ship. And I know that, in my opinion, kind of funny story comes out about, his wife saying how he can't connect to the players. And what's your thoughts on that, first of all? Before I
who is listening to this podcast? Why does she have a podcast? I mean, I know everybody has a podcast. We're just a couple of other, white guys with podcasts, spewing our opinions. But what is this podcast? I know she talks about her husband occasionally, and then I have to pay attention to it. But I've never listened to this. I don't know what it's about. Other than the things that come up. So, guys, stop listening to this podcast.
Yeah, or not even stop listening. I think I've listened to it once. And she does a good job. Like, it's fun. It's mostly just about like her daily life, but then she'll sprinkle in some stuff. And obviously this was some probably pillow talk that she shouldn't have sprinkled in. But what I would say is maybe don't not listen to it, but don't take it as like news. I mean, it could be literally you go home. Like, I go home to my wife and I'm like, hey, everything's going good. But, it's just, it's a different generation. It's a little different, connecting with these guys. That doesn't mean like it's horrible and he's not a leader anymore. And, he can't even talk to guys. Like, it just got blown out of proportion after this. So I think it's a complete non-issue. McVay obviously stamped it out. I don't see any issue with him leading this team and connecting with players. Maybe they're not going out and playing putt-putt golf on off days, but I think everything is totally fine in the building and in the locker room. So I just thought it was funny how that thing took off.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, no, I'm sorry, Kelly, Stafford. I shouldn't be so harsh. I think you deserve all the listeners you can garner. So good luck to you out there in the podcasting world. Yes, obviously, she's got better she's got better. She's got more listeners, I'm sure.
She's got more volume than us, that's for sure. So yes, keep up the great work. Just take it as entertainment, not as reporting. So anyway, that being said, I think Stafford needs to really, he's going to be integral in keeping this unit together through those growing pains, and getting that running game is going to have to be, stout, like you said, especially missing Cooper Kupp. And so the likes of Cam Akers and Kyren Williams, how often will they, go back and forth between them? But I've said all along since McVay's been here, like, you got to rush the ball 30 times in this offense. Running the ball 30 times gives you such a good chance to win. And then it allows you to open things up in the passing game. When you just go back there, especially with this receiving core as it is right now, and want to pepper the ball 40 times, that's not a recipe for success. So running the ball will be huge. Skinny, I want to ask you now, though, but flipping it over and the run defense, this is what concerns me. And I know you mentioned Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet. The run defense, albeit no Aaron Donald in the preseason, Ernest Jones didn't play in the preseason, but it was pretty much open for business for all the running backs that they faced in the 3-week preseason. And now you're going up against a team that so values the run in Pete Carroll in Seattle, and has a 2-headed monster in Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet, and has actually finally upgraded their offensive line, since, the last 2 years. So what are your thoughts on the run defense, and do they have the ability? I'm not even talking Geno Smith, just the rush. Can they slow down the Seattle rush?
It worries me to no end. I'm going to lose sleep over this over the next couple of days, because if you think about it, I mean, Geno Smith is in the top 10 of rushing quarterbacks in terms of yards last year. He was able to rush just fine. You think about not just the core of the middle of the defensive line, but you think of the edges as well. I'm going to run at Michael Hoyt over and over again to see if he can stop me getting around the edge. And then you think about untested guys. I'm not entirely sure what the middle of it's going to look like. When they take the field on Sunday, but it's kind of a roll the dice and let's find out who's going to be out there. But it really concerns me, especially with these two running backs plus Geno Smith. You think about what the 49ers have done over the last few years against this Rams team, just ball control, holding onto that ball for just large swaths, like 15 play drives, 16 play drives, taking chunks off, and that defense is getting worn out. That's what we saw last year, especially. And then, that spells disaster because they're just on the field for such a long time. And if we're seeing 3 and outs like we did last season, that's when you're in big trouble because those guys just can't catch their breath. So that's where I'm at with it. But if McVay can, generate some offense and do the same to this young and unexperienced Seattle defensive line, there can be some balance found in there. And, despite, they had 2 losses last season to the Seattle team, completely unmanned. They played both post Stafford, one against Wolford, one against Baker Mayfield. And they were able to keep the game close. And that's all they need to do to pull out a victory in this is keep this game close.
Yeah, they should have won that last game if not for the refs' assistance there. Yeah. But yeah, again, this isn't preseason. It's a different animal with starters, but Rams 3rd worst against the run in preseason and 2nd worst against the pass. And you have a Seattle team that has improved on offense and, adds the likes of Jackson Smith and Jigba. And obviously we mentioned Zach Charbonnet. So will be tough. So before we get out of here, give me one matchup you are really looking forward to, mano-a-mano in this one.
Well, there's actually 2, and I don't know if it's exactly the kind of matchup that Rams fans are going to want to hear about, but there's a size discrepancy that I'm interested to see. Tutu Atwell going up against the 6'4" Tariq Woolen on their defense. He's 5'8" against 6'4". And then on the other side,
usually the receiver 6'4" and the corner's 5'8", which is what you're getting to.
Yeah, and then we've got DK Metcalf that is probably going to line up against Tre'Davious Hodges Tomlinson, who's a scrappy guy, and I love seeing the fire that he brings to this team. I think it's something that they've kind of lost a bit when Derion Kendrick hasn't been out there, and now that Jalen Ramsey is obviously not with the team. So I like that, but just that size discrepancy doesn't bode well for on either side. But I'm curious just to see the David and Goliath, let's call it, that kind of matchup of it all.
Yeah, absolutely. So, all right, give me your score prediction. We got about 3 minutes left.
All right. So I think both offenses are going to be able to move the ball. So I'm going to think that it's going to be up in the high 20s, I'm going to say. I think that Seattle's going to win, but not cover. And I think that the Rams are going to be able to keep it close. I think that they will be able to run the ball on this team. So I'm going to say that it's going to be 27-24 victory for Seattle.
Okay. So Rams cover, at least for those bettors taking the plus 5.5. When we did our way too early season predictions, I don't know if it was back in June or whatever, but I think I had the Rams winning this game. And, just everything that's transpired and no Cooper Kupp playing at Lumen Field up in Seattle. To my knowledge, Seattle is coming in pretty clean. I think Jackson Smith and Jigba is even set to play when there was some doubt around his injury. So I just think it's just a little too much. I think that I do believe in this Rams team. I think they're going to be a scrappy team all year long. Like I've said all along, I think they can win 8 or 9 games, but they can also win 6. But even in those losses, I think they're going to be in every game just because of the style they're going to play. And I think the revitalization that McVay has in his career and, how prideful he is, I think this team is really going to play well. It's just going to be tough against, they're just, if you look at player versus player, they just don't quite have the talent right now. Maybe week 5, I'll feel very different, but just the unknowns on offensive line, the missing of Cooper Kupp, can they get an edge rush whatsoever? Can they slow down the run of Seattle? And can they get a run going with Cam Akers and Kyren Williams, who we haven't seen play together really ever because one or the other has been hurt or out. They didn't play at all in the preseason. So I agree. I was actually going to say that score prediction, but I'll go different just to not be exactly like you. So I'll go 28-27. I think it's a 1-point loss for the Rams. I think here's how it's going to end, and it's going to be heartbreaking. It's going to be a missed Brett Maher field goal to lose. They had a chance to win it, showing the pride of McVay in Los Angeles, but a missed Brett Maher field goal allows Seattle to escape with a 1-point win, but there'll be a lot of good things for the Rams moving forward.
Yeah, that Brett Maher signing just sent shivers up my spine. I got to be honest about that. Nine sacks last year by the Seattle Seahawks in the 2 games.
Yeah, not good. Yeah. So we will see, but either way, it's going to be fun. Rams football is back. We'll have coverage for you all weekend long here in the LA Football Network. This is the Rams Skinny. For Ryan Anderson, Skinny T, I am Ryan Dyrud. Everyone enjoy the game. Hit us up on Twitter. We'll talk all throughout. Everyone take care.